Today's video is going to be all about the symptoms and signs to look for that's going to tell you you are on the right path to have an out-of-body experience or your own astral projection experience. Now, these symptoms are going to be what I've experienced, as well as what all the countless books on this subject talk about. They're going to be all the classic experiences and feelings that lead directly up to that moment to when you have the out-of-body experience. Now, this video is going to be for people to basically remember all of these symptoms and use them as goalposts throughout your journey, that whenever you start to experience these symptoms, to realize that all of them are completely natural. None of them are going to hurt you or anything nefarious in that way whatsoever. They are all completely natural and safe symptoms that are happening to you. They happen to every single person or most people that do these practices. And what's going to be going on is, once you start to be aware of these symptoms, you then use it as a goalpost to say, yes, I am on the right track here. Keep doing what I am doing. And you go with those symptoms, and then you will have your own experience. Now, the symptoms that you're going to want to pay attention to, and they're going to start to present themselves as you start to relax your whole body and get into this mind awake, body asleep state. Now, one of the first most classic symptoms you'll have is the vibrational state. I'm sure you've heard about this, but it's just going to feel like some sort of vibration is going throughout your entire body. And for me, it does start in a different localized spot, and then it grows throughout the body. Now, I'm going to be making different videos on how you can enhance the vibrational state, but for now, this video is just to let you know that when you start to feel that vibrational state, again, that's a goalpost for you to tell you you are on the right track. Keep doing what you're doing. Now, the vibrational state is going to be different levels of intensity for everybody as well. So if it's not super intense, you don't have to be worried and say, I'm not doing it right. That might be just at your level of intensity. Now, you can always increase it, but wherever you are at specifically, you just want to pay attention to if you do start to feel these sorts of vibrational processes going on, and they could be anywhere from a local spot to the entire body. Now, after you feel the vibrational state, and again, that actually might feel like some sort of like an electricity or a little more extreme than a vibration at some points, but it is nothing painful at all. It's somewhat actually enjoyable. So if you hear somebody say, oh, it feels like a slight electricity, that's not anything negative at all. It's an enjoyable process. Now, on top of the vibrational state, you're going to start to see some quick images present themselves to your closed eyes. Now, it's going to be very similar, this image process, to how the hypnagogic state is with the lucid dreaming as well, because that's what's going on here. So it'll be quick flashes of images. Again, it might not really mean anything to you right when they start to happen, but it'll just be random images, sometimes so quick it'll be like, okay, what was that? And then you want to go back to doing your technique, but they will start to present themselves to you. Now, after the images come, I think for me personally, one of the most interesting things was the sounds that accompany these symptoms before you have an out-of-body experience. Now, the sounds that you're going to want to pay attention for to let you know you're on the right track are if you start to hear somewhat of wind rushing, like you have the windows down in your car, and you're just going really quick and you see that rushing of the wind, or you'll hear somewhat of a high pitch or a humming. And another thing that kind of gets weirder after just these random sounds is you could start to hear music or random melodies, like a drum beat or something random. Again, when it starts to happen the first couple of times, it's very weird because it goes from just a weird humming or silence to then all of a sudden a weird melody or something, a weird audio thing comes in at, and the audio could also be your name being called, which is extremely weird. You're trying to relax your whole body and stay in this, relaxive state, and then you start to hear somebody call your name and try to get your attention. Now, if you weren't aware of these processes and that they're natural, if you're having your eyes closed and you're either alone or maybe your partner is sleeping next to you, and you start to hear your name being called, you might start to freak out, and it might break you out of that kind of trance you're trying to get yourself in. But just have knowledge with that, and realize that it is not something scary. Don't be afraid of it. It's a natural process, and many people experience that. I've had my own name called to me many times, and when it first happened, it actually did break me out of what I was trying to do, because I genuinely thought that somebody was calling my name, and they obviously were not. So I had to educate myself, and once I found out it was super normal, now I use that as a goalpost to say, yes, I'm doing the correct thing. Now, after you'll hear these auditory things, another thing that might present itself to you, or is very common, something I've experienced as well, is a feeling of movement. Now, this is a pretty big one because this is very showing you that you are really close to having an out-of-body experience, or you even might be in the middle of a transition. Um, but that kind of feeling of motion can present itself in a lot of ways. It might feel just a slight rocking like on a ship left to right. It might even feel like a sense of motion as if somebody even got on the bed right next to your feet or anywhere on the bed. It might just start to feel like the bed is also swaying. Maybe your body's not, but the bed all of a sudden might have some movement to it. Just again, realize this is a natural process. What's going on is you're very close to these separation processes. These are just goal signs or goalposts to use to kind of tell yourself you're on the right journey. I know I've said that before, but it's really important to just realize these are natural processes. Now, after that slight movement happens, like I said, you might feel as if someone literally got on the bed. Just don't freak out. Just relax, breathe. Now, after those little motion movements, again, I consider those just small movements. Even if the bed is shaking, I've had it to where I've actually woken up my girlfriend because I was so nervous because the bed, from what I viewed, was like uncontrollably shaking or swaying back and forth. And obviously, it was not in real life. I was just very close to having one of these experiences on my own, but I didn't have this knowledge before, so I kind of got freaked out. Again, knowledge is power with this topic. It absolutely is. Now, a more intense motion that you want to pay attention to, somewhat of a upward motion or a motion within the body of quick movement. It'll go from just swaying to almost like you are extremely rapidly moving either in a spiral up or in some kind of a sinking feeling. But for me personally, what I can talk about is that spiraling up motion. It really, my own experience, I was not prepared for it. And I actually had 2 attempts back to back, and they each still, because I was not prepared and I was a little nervous, I wasn't as educated as I was at this moment now. I freaked out and I wasn't able to have a full experience. But now I use that same moment as a catapult, as excitement that I am on the right path. But what previously happened was in my eyes, I could see a huge white light, and I was spiraling up really quickly. And it got so quick, I got so nervous, I started to kind of shout out, this has to stop, I want to stop, I don't want to do this anymore. And I slowly came back down, and I was kind of relaxing. I sat up for a second, I laid back down, and that was basically a test run. And the exact same thing happened, a great white light, that quick spiraling motion up, and it was still so intense, and I still was not prepared for it, that I said the same thing. Oh my gosh, this is intense. I want to stop this. I'm not ready for this. Again, I was trying to do this, and the symptoms presented itself, and I should have been excited, but I just wasn't ready for this quick motion at that moment when I was doing the techniques. But now, again, it's something more exciting, and now I look forward to those moments because that's more of a catapult to have the experience. But again, just knowledge is power, and you want to realize that you want to just go with that complete experience, that quickness of motion. You are basically right at that edge of projecting and or having an out-of-body experience. And don't let any fear or any quickness, just expect that these things are going to happen. And if you expect it to happen, you're not going to allow it to kind of throw you off. And as always, remember, this shit is so easy, you can do it in your sleep.